Simply Youth Ministry Podcast with Doug Fields and friends.
Recording. Hey, everybody. Doug Fields here with Matt and Josh, and we are so blessed. I'm going to look in the camera, which I never do.
Yes.
Men and women, friends, youth workers, we are so blessed to have Jana here.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Because we put an email out about 4 o'clock on Wednesday saying this is the only time we can do it, and Jana writes back and says,
Sorry, can't be there.
Can't be there.
No
and
explanation of what she was doing.
So,
because I knew
that was last
you
week.
wanted to know.
I know.
Of course I wanted to know.
Which
so
is
that was
part
last
of the
week.
philosophy. No, that was a Monday.
Okay,
Can't do it,
Monday?
guys.
Monday.
Can't do it.
All right, so Monday
was
which
last
is
week
3 days
according
ago.
to the Aztec calendar.
So, what's part of the philosophy mean? What does that mean?
Because I can keep a little private life to myself.
Absolutely.
You do not have a private life, but she just knew that she was going to get it shot down.
No, so
Is it
here's the
private?
deal. So I'm driving over here, and for our 4 o'clock podcast, which I got here, a few minutes early. Mark
For the
that
first
down.
time ever.
I don't
Get
think
ready,
so. No,
prepare your heart.
I laid on the table and prayed. But I called Jana
Personal
and I
life.
said, Jana, I'm sure there's a great reason. I just can't remember the reason of why you're not here. And she goes, well, I think I can make it.
What was the reason?
No way.
Did you know?
Let me finish. I'm
Sorry.
Jana.
Okay.
I've got a hair appointment.
No!
And this person's kind of hard to get into, and so.
Oh, wow.
But I think I can make it because I'm done. So she did
So
make
I
it.
was faithful and got here.
That was
Well,
great.
and she ran the red light. She was in front of me, ran the red light, and I still beat her here.
That's
Yeah,
what-
that was like a
fantastic.
movie.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was great. Yeah, she
Well-
ran the light, and I obeyed the traffic laws and still won.
We have a lot
Some.
going on,
Was
you
it
guys.
red?
There is
Some
so
traffic.
much action about McGill being at.
Yes. The internet is a hotbed of activity. McGill, you're caused quite
And
a stir.
McGill's
Yeah, then Matt's
In
going to be
hotbed?
at the National Youth Ministry Conference at Group
Signing
Simply Youth
autographs.
Ministry. Signing autographs.
I think the fans are kind of split.
I think we should
Yeah.
bust out some Matt McGill Sports Instructional for all the old school people.
Oh, Andy's smiling. He likes that
Oh.
idea.
Mm.
Can we update them and put them on DVD? Can we film new ones, Matt?
How do you guys like this shirt Josh is wearing?
I want to make jokes about the conference, but
Okay,
last time I did that, I got edited.
here's the deal.
What?
No, I like it. I just
It's
can't.
actually a Nike shirt, which means he probably paid for it, which is
No,
probably
he didn't
there's
pay for
only
it.
I
like
absolutely paid
there's
for
only
the
like
shirt.
money
4
for that
shirts
shirt?
in his closet
I
that he's
paid
ever
money for
paid
the
for.
shirt.
So
What
Why
kind of
did
money?
you pay
$8
money for that
at TJ
shirt?
Maxx. True story.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this weekend I'm speaking in high school and Josh is in the back and we have this little bit. We're doing this series on scarred.
Oh, so fun.
And I said, everybody knows what a scar looks like. And let's show up a photo. And Josh and I thought it'd be funny if we said scarf. He showed up photos of scarf.
So I misunderstood him and got pictures of scarves instead of scars.
And
Instead of that lion from Lion King.
nobody laughed at all.
We're dying.
Josh and I are like two little kindergarten girls thinking this is the funniest thing on the planet. We got all these high schoolers.
You should have done Snarf from the Thundercats. That would have been good.
But the thing is, we didn't
But wait,
cut
what
it.
does
We
that
have
have to
other
do with the
services.
shirt?
I was
Well,
wearing the shirt in one of the pictures.
In one of the photos,
Oh.
there was a photo of him with a scarf, and it went the other way.
So it was like this on
it
one
had like
side.
an orange scarf over here.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it was attractive.
Yeah.
But the bit didn't work. But we left it in for the additional services just because we thought it was funny.
yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
then they did laugh at the other service.
actually
On
worked at
Sunday
one
they
of
were
them.
laughing at you laughing.
I think so.
Maybe.
We
One,
really
we were
thought
one
it
for
was
3. But we had a good
I
time.
love
This
it.
is from Adam's family. It says, it's not enough that
No.
I'm deprived of new episodes of The
Yes.
Office. Have I
We're on a
not
writer's strike also,
endured
sorry.
enough reruns in reality television? Is the SYM podcast another victim of the
Yes.
writer's strike? Certainly
hold-
that can't be true.
Holding out for more money.
We, the podcast fans, write all your good material. I need entertainment. I beg you, please put down your signs, cross the picket line, give me a podcast. I must have number
If we
64.
put down the signs, there'd be no picket line anymore.
yeah.
I'm even beginning to miss Matt.
A little shot in the send-off
But
right
was
there.
it 64 last week? Because this is our
Oh,
second.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
So this is an email right before the other one went out.
All
I
right,
guess.
and we're gonna get to questions a little quicker, but one of them that we need to this Jason Underwood guy. This is the guy who
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, we said Matt might not go to the conference in Cincinnati, and so we're gonna do a live podcast on
Yep.
Friday night, and we need somebody to sit in if he's not there. And I always thought it was if he wasn't there because he was going to go to Kenya and get this baby that he's adopting. And so last week on the show, I said, didn't I say if he's not there?
Right.
So Jason writes, this is Monday, 2 days ago. At 5:15 of episode 64, you asked for audio proof of a podcast sit-in winner, even though Matt would be there. You will find the audio proof you requested on episode 62 from minute 146 to 156. I have also included a transcript which clearly suggests a sit-in winner regardless of where Matt might have been. Okay. Jana, what happens if Matt doesn't go to Kenya that week? Doug, then he's going to the podcast. Josh, and then whoever wins will join us at the table.
Of course it was Josh's idea.
Yeah. Doug.
Totally
illogical, but because Matt's
totally
there,
excitable.
they can't talk that much. So with that taken, so now he goes. So with that taken care of, all I need to know is when and where to meet you for the podcast. My plane arrives early on Friday morning.
Claiming victory.
So Friday evening, like you suggested, will be fine with me. So that was Monday. All right, that was Monday. Now we got another one that Josh printed out.
Oh, you
Josh,
can't.
This was Tuesday. And the title of this, are you looking at it? The title
Matt's
of this
already ready to kick him out.
Is called Renege. Okay? And he gives a little definition. Failed to carry out a promise or commitment, reneged on the contract at the last minute. Dear Doug and friends, I just spoke with Andy, and I must admit, he called you?
5:30. Office is closed. He rings my extension.
Oh, wow.
Which
And he
means
answered
it's
the phone.
probably like 11:30 and wherever
Where is
Unknownsville
Jason?
he lives.
Where is he from?
Oh,
Right.
North Carolina.
Not California, so it doesn't
North
count.
Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay. I must admit that I'm even a little disappointed that this competition has come to a public vote. Now, I really need you to pay attention to this, Matt.
I'm
'cause
so focused.
We've got to come up with something because how many weeks away are we from the conference? 3 weeks away?
We're 3 weeks away.
It seems that being pronounced the provisional winner last week just wasn't quite enough. Was he announced as the
I guess,
provisional
well,
winner?
maybe.
Does anybody remember?
I
See,
thought
that's
we were
the
going
problem.
versus.
None of us remember.
Right.
None of us really care enough about the podcast.
Even after proving Doug wrong and seemingly ensuring my victory, he continues to, as I said last time, dangle the proverbial carrot. Let me take that one.
I was going to say.
Oh!
Invisalign.com. Here we go. Hey,
that's fun.
Andy, should
Here,
we?
I'll wear them.
Look at for being here at 5:30.
Oh,
This is closed.
Gosh.
I
You're
think
allowed
we
to
should.
make
That was
you-
a good. That was good.
You can brush that, you know.
I know, I do.
Oh.
All right. Is
Oh,
it true?
golly.
It is true that David is a great guy and his video is well done. David is the one we watched last
Yeah,
week,
good
the
guy.
second entrance. Believe it or not, we talked some since this thing started and plan on getting together at some
Oh, by
point
the way,
in the
how do
conference.
you like that pen?
I like it. Thank you.
Okay.
I've saved it for a week now.
Very nice.
I wish him all the best. With that being said, let me continue.
Oh, my.
Imagine that you're winning an
Jesus.
eBay auction. This is where his argument breaks down, I think. A little bit.
Okay. I'm
Well,
listening.
eBay.
Imagine that you're winning an eBay auction. Maybe it's a lifetime supply of Diet Pepsi and vitamin water, or a copy of Halo 4, or my autographed Dave Dorman Vader litho. Miraculously, your bid of $20 is winning, and there is only 10 seconds left. It looks like you've gotten the deal of a lifetime, but not so fast. Here comes an eBay sniper with their bid of $20.25. You lose, they win. That stinks, and that is pretty much how I feel right now.
What's
But
wrong with that?
that's
Called life.
I
It's
know.
called a bid.
Buyer's
He said
remorse.
10 seconds left.
No, it's
I
not
said-
buyer's remorse.
Exactly.
It's called
That's how it
losers
works.
ridiculous.
It's called. That's when you should bid on eBay stuff.
That's
That's
And
right.
you lost, sucker. That's
So
it.
I kind of think he kind of
I
pretty
was
much
running a
opens
race,
himself
and then somebody
up.
beat me.
Someone
And they
passed me.
won.
But I thought I was going to win.
Oh my gosh,
Well,
Jason!
But here's the deal. He does say, "See you at your breakout sessions, Doug,"
Oh, nice.
which is a little
Jason.
creepy. Because here's what I did.
Ooh.
Here, well, we went on the.
Oh, he's sucking up a little bit there.
I
No,
think
no,
that's
no.
more
I think
suck
that's
up,
more
yeah.
threatening. He's a scary looking dude. Have you seen the video?
I don't judge people by their appearances.
Well, I do on this one, especially when somebody says, "See you at your breakout session," and he's probably bigger and stronger. But the fact that you're going to kind of be my bodyguard.
Bodyguard.
I think that's why you're going, right?
So what we did is we put both of the videos up for the podcast listeners to vote.
Yes.
That we decided last week
Let
that
them
was the
decide.
only thing that's fair.
Yeah.
So you've got now both.
I
of
think
the-
somebody
both
else
of
should
them are
put in a
going.
video, and if it's more awesome, they get it, and these two
So
guys
we-
don't get it.
That'd
Yeah.
be fine.
That would
Even
be like
better.
somebody sniping the sniper.
I like it.
To use
Okay.
the proverbial eBay thing.
So
Yeah.
anyway, on our website, how's that working, Andy? Is it on our website?
Go to the show notes for today's show.
Show notes for today's
How many people
show.
have voted already?
2.
Two. Me, I voted.
I voted 2.
I voted.
Doug and Andy
I
voted.
voted for Jason.
Can you vote
and
multiple times?
I voted for Jason.
Because
and
you're
the only-
scared of him?
Because
Yeah,
I
it's
wrote
cookie.
back and I said, "You guys, it looks good. That'll work." I said, "I voted for
So if
Jason
you
because I'm
erase the
scared of
cookie,
him."
you can't vote. Oh,
All right.
So when
Here's-
the show goes live, vote in the
Here's
poll.
another guy, Dusty Smith. He says,
Hi, Dusty.
huge van, blah, 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 blah,
See you
blah.
in your breakout. Blah, blah, blah.
Mostly, I tune in for the laughs, but I usually walk away with a nugget or two that I can apply to my
Just
ministry.
enough youth ministry so you don't feel guilty for listening.
He says, observations, and this is where I thought this was interesting. I must say that your last
Finally get to something
podcast was a
interesting.
bit lackluster. I found the content to be strong, but the energy seemed to be lacking. Did you guys feel that last week?
I thought it was actually pretty good.
I thought
Must
the energy
because I
was...
left early.
Yeah. Well,
to get her hair done last week, too.
that's not the way you want to start a new year. For those who
wow.
aren't
I should've let
already
you see
hooked,
this one.
the ending of this week's show didn't leave anyone wanting to come back for more because we brought Brazelton in. Andy,
Oh, the show-
Andy
Does he know,
said
does he
in.
know it's free? The show's free. Keep your
Being-
expectations low.
Being a
you're
faithful,
right.
yeah, not free for us. SimplyYouthMinistry.com. Look at the banner
Brand
in
new
the
resources.
background.
Click on.
Being a faithful devotee to all things SYM, I view this as a hiccup, and I know you will come back strong.
No,
Now-
this is
No,
kind of our
here's the
show. That
hiccup.
might have been our
Don't
best
ever listen to the show again. We don't want you listening to this.
No, I want him. I want Dusty Smith
I
listening.
don't. No,
He-
you
then he
don't.
gives some suggestions, but I'm not going to read the suggestions because they weren't that good. He says the drawback to these suggestions may be major as it deals with the Achilles heel of the podcast team. Both of these would require forethought and preparation, which flies in the face of the shoot from the hip mentality that has reigned over the podcast since its birth.
Yes.
If by
I think
chance
about
you
the
use my
podcast all week
suggestions
long.
or even find them inspiring, I would be honored to witness this groundbreaking event by the award-winning podcast. We haven't even paused to recognize the award. for a
congratulate
second week in a
ourselves
row.
again?
Yeah. I told
Yeah.
my family about it and they laughed.
That is so funny.
It's not a laughing matter. It's very
Admission
It's
to the
a
holy
story.
grail of podcasts is humbly requested. Shout out to Andy and the SYM crew as a top 500 customer and a Simply Access member.
What's up?
Simply access.
You know
That
what the Simply Access is?
You know what? I just heard Jacko talking about something as I came in about exclusive access for 60 days and blah, blah,
Andy's
blah.
been wanting to do this for years.
I have no idea what
It's
it is.
cool.
And I've kind of fought it a little bit. Well, here's the only reason I fought it. Because I thought,
You're too old. You don't like innovation.
that's exactly why. Is because I always thought, well, you know, everybody should be
Downloadable
able to
Bible
get
Institutes?
access to what we want to do. And then Andy says, do you know how much the podcast is costing us? We've got to do something. Blah, 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 blah.
So what is Simply Access?
Simply Access
I mean, I
is
really
like-
don't know that.
I
so
don't
this
really.
is a legitimate
you-
question.
They pay for
And a legitimate plug.
they pay for
And
1
an
year.
illegitimate plug,
There you
because
go.
I'll tell you whether it's good or bad or not.
Okay, they pay a 1 year fee, right,
1 year
Andy?
fee.
Pay a 1 year fee.
40 weeks of small group curriculum.
40 weeks of
25
small
weeks
group,
sermons,
25 weeks of sermons,
Plus games, media.
plus all the
background,
media backgrounds,
exclusive podcast.
exclusive
interviews.
podcast.
Wait, what is
I don't
happening
know.
right now?
of the award-winning
Exclusive
podcast.
podcast
Wait,
interviews?
everything
What's that?
you need for $300.
No, we've been given back
Pretty
like
cool.
Andy and I made a list the other day of all the stuff that, like the one-off sermon that I did
Yeah.
2 weeks ago that's not going to be a part of a
Totally.
super series.
Right, where does that go?
Simply Access
Access.
members.
Maybe
Cool.
it should go into the
Lot of
trash
stuff.
can.
Yeah, maybe should.
No, that was a good talk. Walk with
Okay,
Jesus.
so that's
did you
pretty
really
good.
say
300
podcast-
bucks?
What did you say about interviews?
Yeah, what's the podcast exclusive
Like, you
interviews?
did an interview with Duffy Robbins
Oh,
and
oh.
recorded over Skype.
Yes, yes.
We're gonna post the
Totally.
unedited interview in there.
And that
Unedited.
Maybe we'll interview you for.
Well,
not
like say for
for
example,
social
I
videos.
interviewed Duffy, I interviewed Dan Webster for the Group Magazine. They're doing a new thing where I interview
Yep.
somebody now.
Dan Webster?
Oh, Matt, it was so.
It's so
Who's Dan
good.
Webster? Not Doug Webster. Dan
No,
Webster.
Dan Webster. Dan Webster used to be the youth pastor years ago at Christ Cathedral,
Yes. sir.
and then he went to Willow Creek, and
Uh-huh.
then he started his own church. He's probably in his mid-50s.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
He's
It's got
brilliant.
tons of like good leadership.
Oh my
skills.
gosh, he's so good.
That's
like
good.
I was interviewing him and I'm kind of stunned the whole time as I'm talking to him or really listening
Cool.
to him because he's so good.
That's cool.
And I
Where's
said-
his church at? Should we go work for him?
He's in Michigan. He's in Michigan.
Oh,
He does a thing
too
called
many
authentic
cars.
leadership. He doesn't pastor a church anymore. Very,
But
very,
that's
very
what
sharp
Dan
guy.
Webster did.
That's who?
Didn't Doug Webster do that?
No.
Authentic leadership?
No, that's Dan Webster.
Doug gave us
Doug
the
Webster.
book.
Doug Webster.
Fields
Doug
gave
was-
Webster
us the
did a
book
leadership
years
thing.
ago.
Yeah, many
Remember,
years
as
ago,
a
I
team,
gave
we
you a
did it.
book called Raw Deal
Okay.
that Dan Webster wrote.
But does Doug Webster have leadership stuff?
Doug leadership. I wonder
Doug
what field
Webster
he's
has
gonna get
leadership
into.
skills, and he was a pastor.
I've got this vision of a leaf, a bigger leaf, and then a tree, and his name.
Dan
next to it.
Webster. Dan.
Oh,
And he's
it was good
unbelievable.
material.
He's
The
unbelievable.
icon was awesome.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
you
here's the
remember the
deal.
Four
icon?
of them icons.
I did an hour interview
Sorry.
with him. We recorded it. Well, only about 15 minutes made it into Group Magazine. So the other part is that we'll.
Oh,
we'll
so
give
you're
that to
doing an
Simply.
interview and then they're transcribing it and putting it in the
A
magazine?
chunk
Yeah.
of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole
And they
unedited
call that
interview.
work for you, huh?
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
So far, I got more out of it than.
Any of the readers?
Oh my gosh, Dan's stuff. We got to get. Andy, we make a note to get these guys the transcript of Dan Webster's deal. Hey, Matt McGill and friends.
Nice
Hi.
email. Like that.
I just want to shoot a quick
Silly.
email. Thanks for your comments on Ruth's question on episode 64. Everybody remember Ruth's
Oh,
question?
remember that?
Mm.
From
I know.
Ireland?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
She
Ruth
was from Ireland.
Yeah, but what was her
were we
question?
talking about?
Good job.
They've
I
got the
remember.
IRA over there. That's all I know.
And a lot of potatoes.
I'm also
Do they
new
still
to,
have that? Is
I'm
that-
also new to ministry, 7 months with a small group, and struggle with the comparison trap. So that's what it was about.
Oh,
yeah.
the comparison. By the
Also
way, if
coming-
IRA is offensive, I didn't mean to be offensive.
Also, coming
and if
from
potatoes
working to
are
corporate jobs, I found that commitment number one, I will move slowly from your first 2 years in youth ministry is harder than it sounds. I want to let you know that I lean on the grace of God and also on Matt. All right.
You can't go wrong.
A fan from overseas.
Here's a question from Chris
No,
Hansen.
That person.
He says,
Please
"Wow,
pay
I'm
attention to
writing
my
this
fan mail."
as the pirate ship just came in." What is the pirate ship just came in? Episode
Arr.
64. Is that part of our jingle on the front end or the back end?
I don't know.
There's a.
Talking
Okay.
to Pirate Day was in September.
Chris Hansen. No, he's talking about episode 64. This is 65, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, "I'm writing this as the pirate ship just came in. I just love how you take emails with great youth ministry questions and take 5 minutes longer than necessary to answer."
Who are you to judge what's necessary?
This guy and Dusty ought to hang out.
Due to the randomness thrown in there, but don't worry, that's the biggest reason I listen to
Oh,
this
nice
award-winning
save.
podcast.
Oh, nice
Award-
save.
award-winning.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
You know what? We ought to
Circle
have
that.
a whistle or a bell or some type
we-
of sound effect.
or some type of
we
a
used
trophy?
To have a bell.
Could we have a trophy of some sort?
Yeah, but Jana, that was before your time.
I know,
you
but,
know what? You
well-
talk about the bell. It brings back things with Natalie, and people, they've had a hard time getting
Yeah.
used to you.
It's,
I know I have.
Here's the question. A youth worker friend and I have been discussing an issue and wanted the expert opinion of those on the podcast. Several times throughout the year, we have events we take our youth to. Mission trips, retreats, conferences, etc. Mainly due to cost, we limit the number of our volunteers who attend as chaperones based on appropriate ratio of leaders to students. Our question is, as a youth leader, if your spouse is one of your volunteers, does she get or he should get to chaperone any event they want simply because they put up with being married to a paid youth worker, or do they rotate through the events just like any other volunteer? We see both sides of the issue, but wondered what your thoughts were and what the industry standard may be.
Oh gosh, there's not two sides to that issue.
That's funny you said that because I thought to myself, is there really another side?
Don't you want your spouse
I would
there?
want when
That
my
was a
wife is a
stupid
volunteer.
question.
Here, the question in my family would be, "Oh, Kathy, do you want to go?"
That's right. Do you
Yeah.
want to? Is the only possible
Sometime
other
in this
side.
century, would you like to go to an event? She goes to Mexico every year. Brazel flaked out on her last year, I heard.
My wife has been sitting in the high school group
Grazel.
the new year, 2008.
Really?
Every week.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's
At a
loving
table? Did you guys go back to tables yet?
Some tables, not a ton.
Yeah.
It's
Each-
good that tables move to the front, though.
Tables in the front are packed now. Leaders have a place to go. It's good. We're trying a bunch of different setups and seeing what our sweet spot is. The big deal is as we build the student zone, that's got tables, and chairs kind of set up.
Yeah,
already.
nobody really cares. Chris Hansen is asking.
Chris cares. Chris cares.
Well, I'm thinking we just took away from Chris here. I was trying to focus on
Oh, sorry, Chris.
Yeah, there's not two sides of the issue. You're looking at some false lies.
Matt, do you have an
'Cause
opinion on
oftentimes
this?
there are true lies.
Here's the softball, ready?
Yeah.
Matt, do you have an opinion on this?
Oh yeah, I remember that's funny.
Okay, well, let's try it
So-
again. Okay, and we're back. Take.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Matt, do you have an opinion on this?
I can't even pretend to be in something like that. I was talking to somebody.
No,
that-
come
I
on.
can't
You-
just say it. That's
Okay,
so
then wait
fake.
later
I
then.
can't be a.
Well, you-
I can't. I don't know why. I'm not an actor.
Okay, well then after you fake it, then you can say, okay.
I know. Okay, let me try it again.
Okay, ready? Hey Matt, I think these,
I'm just
Yeah,
laughing. I can't
If
even
my
go.
comment was bad, then what is this?
I'm
what is this
thinking
right now?
that if your spouse wants to go on an event, that is huge because one of the things you're doing is you're modeling marriage, you're modeling healthy youth ministry by bringing your spouse. If he or she wants to go, they don't rotate like other volunteers. That would be.
And the
That
only
would be my
exception to
opinion.
that would be if your spouse doesn't really.
Want to go?
Yeah, but
No,
not-
if she's not she or he or she. She. I just assumed
Let's
that the
see,
spouse
yeah.
would be female,
That's
which is true 99%
bad
of the
assumption.
time.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, affirmative
Oh,
action,
yeah.
we can't assume
IRA.
that.
Potatoes.
But if they're not a good leader on the trip, then you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not a good
like
leader.
when you used to bring Mish.
Oh, and I was the bad
Maybe
leader.
we used to bring Matt.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have an opinion on this, Matt?
That's it. The only exception is if they're not good leader.
Oh, so do you have an opinion on this?
Oh crap! I
I
forgot.
don't- Remember?
Someone was just talking about this a couple days ago, and I said, you know what? I don't have opinions. I only have knowledge.
I love it.
God.
All right, Chris Hansen. So there is our response. We're not even sure if it's right, but that's what we feel. And
No,
then,
We're pretty
We're pretty
sure,
sure
don't you
it's
think?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's right.
Yeah,
Bring your
go
wife,
ahead
bring
and
your
do
husband.
softball.
Done.
Everybody likes Doug.
And then he writes on a separate note. There's Andy. I'm going to give this to you. He's got a youth worker friend, like the guy's part time, and he donates his money back to the church. He's employed by the military, and he's in Iraq right now, and they are looking for some resources. So will you contact them and give them
Here, that guy from last week, too.
give them whatever they want?
Brazel, don't cuss.
Simply access.
All right.
That was for you.
Oh,
Um,
that's now an easy way to help freebies out, huh?
Simply access is the way.
Matt,
Excuse
that's like
me.
your fourth burp.
Second.
You are
It's
going back.
two
I
cans of
I
Diet
shouldn't have
Pepsi.
had Diet Pepsi. is what
Hey,
it
really
is.
quick, why don't you have a Diet Pepsi in front of you?
I don't drink Diet Pepsi anymore.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
So 7 hours
How
ago.
many hours are you at? 3 hours of aspartame withdrawal right here?
No, here's what happened.
Oh.
I've been on this.
Every time there's a story.
Guys,
I've been
my
on this-
heart.
I've been on this blood pressure medicine, and every time I go to the
Which I'm
doctor, I
wrong,
want to
'cause
get
I'm
off
the
of this
fat guy.
medicine, and the doctor says you got to get rid of salt.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't put salt on chips. I don't add salt to anything.
You
with
don't
French
put
don't put
fries.
salt on
lick
chips.
anywhere.
I don't put salt on saltines.
As if most people open a bag of chips and pour salt.
No, like
My
tortilla
Fritos,
chips to the Mexican food place.
Unsalted peanuts.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I put salt in my
and so I
margaritas.
just can't get my blood pressure down.
And come to find out.
And then 2 days ago, okay, here I'm 45 years old. You think I should know this? 2 days ago,
No, I don't think you
enter in. Andy, you haven't heard this story. I enter into.
We've all
we
heard
haven't.
it.
All
I
right.
enter into Calorie King, Diet Pepsi, just because I wanted to see like what things were in there, like cholesterol none. You know, it gives me this fat none, sugars none, sodium 30,
35.
and I don't know
35 milligrams.
milligrams,
wow.
kilotons, whatever it is.
But it says at the top, very low sodium. Can't you just
But
believe
Okay.
it?
Yeah, it's
This-
1% of your daily amount.
This
Okay.
Starbucks drink has 110 milligrams.
Okay, Jana, think about this though. I start every day off with like 2 liters of these before
Just
noon.
so sad. by the way.
Vitamin water,
But there's,
0.
the worst is
Zero,
like your
guys.
kidneys, not so much the
Oh,
sodium.
you've never seen my kidneys.
Not that you know.
Ooh, shake that up.
Yeah,
Shake
shake.
salt up. It's, yeah.
Okay, here's a question from
You know why they
Frank.
put salt in?
No.
Makes it taste
Salt.
better?
No.
Salt brings out the flavor. And so I thought this was true, and I like to make cookies and stuff. And so I doubled
like
the
to make
amount of
cookies?
salt.
He makes good cookies.
I baked a chocolate raspberry cake this week.
Really?
Wasn't that
Actually,
good?
in the last year, Matt's really kind of come into his cooking self.
And
Pesto
so I
sauce.
doubled the salt, and it didn't bring out double the flavor. Yeah, it was
There's
a
a law
salty
of
cookie.
diminishing
Niche was like,
returns
"Oh,
there."
what was wrong with this?" And I go, "What do you think? Do you like it?" We gave a whole plate to the neighbors,
No.
and we did.
You're supposed to taste it before you pass
Well, I
it out.
did, and I'm like,
Chocolate
"Oh,
chip
okay."
was-
Yeah.
So
Kids are like sprinkles.
So,
They're licking the top of it.
a couple days later, I was like, "Yeah, I doubled the salt." She's like laughing at me, telling me that I'm dumb.
Hey, speaking of
Divorced
double
me.
salt, what are we doing on Super Bowl to Sunday?
Oh, yeah.
You want to bring your kids over to throw up at my house?
That sounds great. We're thinking about doing low key
Low-key.
this year because I've just been gone a little bit.
Yeah, you have.
Honestly, I just been thinking
Thank
about
God.
thinking about bringing the kids over, shaking them up.
Low key
giving
at
them
the
some red
field
pop.
house, though, right?
Yeah, low
Oh,
key.
you mean you don't want me to invite anybody else?
Just a low key thing at your house. If you can get some
I
food
was
brought in,
thinking
that'd be
McGill
great.
normally cooks. What do you got planned?
Something with the regionals.
They're invited
No, nothing-
somewhere that
nothing
we're not
with the
invited
friends,
to.
you know.
I had no plans up until a couple days ago and invited just one family over that might come.
Who's that?
The Hubners.
Good for you, dude.
So
I love that you're forgetting that you invited me over too.
Oh,
I was
and
just
the
gonna
Brazils,
say,
yeah.
and no, I didn't forget. I just was saying.
I didn't forget. I just omitted you. 'Cause
Frank Hones.
He wanted to tell a white lie
H-O-N-E-S-S. What is
instead of
that, Jan? Hones or Hones?
Homies.
Oh, but I had a
What's up?
materialistic thought.
We just call him Frank.
I have lots of problems in my life, but materialism isn't typically one of them.
Yeah.
But when I thought that some people were coming over for Super Bowl, I thought, ooh, we got new couches. First time I ever had that thought in my life.
Really?
So I don't know if I'm growing up or if I need to go see a
You just
priest
need to
and confess.
just
How
hit him with
horrible
a pair of
is that?
scissors.
Yeah,
and
nobody
he'll be
wants
That's
to sit on
horrible.
your couches.
fine. Are they leather?
How horrible is that?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised for you. That
I know,
seems
I'm-
spiritually immature.
It totally does. I think that's really weak, by the way.
Yeah.
Wait, are they leather?
I don't have opinions about that, man.
They're
Just-
not leather.
Just wisdom.
Are they cloth?
Truth. They're cloth. Some kind of cloth. I
Oh,
don't know.
brother. We're
All
not
right,
having
yeah.
this discussion.
Frank says, I felt the need for us to provide, hey, you have a good house for a Super Bowl party. What do you
Come on
think?
over.
Yeah. TV's a little small though.
You guys are welcome to come.
Oh, now you
sympathy.
invite us.
Yeah, if nobody wants to sit on your couch. We're going to feel guilty.
Sit on the floor.
Yeah, don't eat.
Hey,
Don't
want
spill
us
the
to take
guac.
our shoes off and wrap ourselves in cellophane?
Don't spill the guac.
I've felt the need for us
Just
to
your
provide
head.
some sort of alternative for our students on Sunday mornings. Sunday mornings are adult service times when students are usually with their families. I'll get to the point. Our students are bored out of their minds, so are some of the adults. But at the time, I felt like we need to explore an option on Sunday mornings for our students. The main advice I got from each of you, so I'm guessing he's already sent something in, a question, was not to
called
do
us.
it simply because it takes away from community with the main church body.
That's my third.
Third.
Holy
can you limit
peppermint
that?
dark
Seriously.
chocolate. It's like Christmas.
Oh,
in
are my
a
eyes
Starbucks.
watering?
Yes.
Your hair just went down.
That's awesome.
Down.
The main advice I got from you guys was don't do it because it takes away community from the main church.
What?
We did that.
Who said that?
I'm guessing.
Take your spouse with on the event.
Yeah, because we don't do that at our church.
Yeah, but that may be why we gave it. You know what? If you didn't have to start for, let's go back to going to church with your family. I think that's a great thing.
Right.
Teaching kids to go to
Absolutely.
church. I think it's a great thing. So, I could see myself saying, hey, if you don't have to do that type of program, you don't have to provide an alternative program. Don't teach kids to go to church. He says, since then, I've had conversations with my senior pastor, and his heart has changed. He feels it's necessary, and so we're wanting to try a pilot version in February. Here's our idea. Offer a Sunday morning alternative for junior high and high school students during the 10 a.m. worship service after praise and worship time.
So they leave.
So children exit the auditorium.
Okay, so after the singing.
Yeah.
The
Go to
purpose of
children's
this
church.
is to provide a relaxed and more specific environment for students to get to know each other and grow in their walk with Christ. Some components, small group discussion, short devotion, breakfast, a relaxed environment for our students to get to know one another better. So hence my question.
Hence.
What do you think? My only inclination is that we should start this once a month for a while and see how it takes off. My senior pastors think we should do it every week, but honestly, I think I disagree. I think that starts to really take away from the community or family aspect of Sunday mornings. To me, once a month is not as bad.
Maybe he doesn't want to prep anything.
Okay, let's assume that's not true.
Okay. That's a good assumption.
Cynical Matt.
Well, you could always ask some students and some parents what they want to do, and if they think that's a good idea. But you got to make sure you don't ask people to just say yes to everything, or you won't really have a true answer.
Well, so the question is you've got this community sense, okay, so now I've got 3 teenagers.
But he's
And-
admitting that it's boring, by the way.
Yeah,
I
but
know, that's kind of
all
a funny-
church is boring, though. If your heart's not right on it, let's be honest. Church is, you could be,
Yeah.
even if your heart is right, sometimes it's hard to sit in church.
Yeah.
So,
Andy.
Yeah. Oh, poor Andy. We won't even bring that one up, Josh.
Well, he looked up like,
Yeah,
crap.
Andy had a tough experience last week at church, but we'll save that for his blog. More than dodgeball.
That's Josh's blog.
Morethandodgeball.com? What?
I'm sorry, did it win an award?
And no,
No.
not yet.
No.
Come on, Collide.
Yeah. How about that other podcast you were going to?
Shut up.
How did that do?
That
Did
you were-
make
Wow,
you-
that was a sensitive thing right there. You somehow made it through the defenses. That was right up there to.
Well, I
laying
thought
down for
I thought
prayer.
that horse was already dead. So I was just like, wow, okay, I guess we're gonna
No
go
horse
on it.
is ever dead.
Let's just lay
Jesus
on the
raises
podcast
things from
emails
the
while
dead.
we're at it.
So
Stop,
your guys'
stop, I'll bring my
podcast.
kids over and throw up on you.
Did your podcast really sucked? I didn't know that.
Oh, it wasn't that
It
good.
was fine.
No, it wasn't
Well,
that good.
how come you're
Did
not
you ever
doing
listen to it?
Not once.
Yeah, me neither.
So I say do it every week.
Every week?
I
a
say
minute.
do a service every week.
Are you still doing the podcast?
No.
How come?
Because
It
it was
sucked.
time for it to be over.
It sucked.
Why was it time for it to be over?
Because my role changed at church, and I felt like I needed to
Yeah, it wasn't.
So
focus
it wasn't. It wasn't.
everything outside. I don't know what to say. It had 3,000 downloads, so it can't have sucked
week?
that bad.
That's
Why
bad.
is your voice cracking?
I don't know. I'm going through puberty
Why are
right
you
now.
like so defensive?
I think this guy should start a service on Sunday mornings.
Okay, Sunday mornings every week.
Every
Jana, what do you
week.
think?
Breakfast is a great idea. Food.
Breakfast.
Yes.
That's a relaxed and focused environment. That's for sure.
I don't know. I don't know.
Getting up in the middle
I
is
like
rough.
that. Yeah, that is.
I
rough.
agree.
I mean-
you got to go all or nothing.
And maybe, well, I mean, unless you think of some great way to transition it where it's not weird, like if everyone is standing for the singing time and before everyone
Nah,
sits down,
no good way
you
to
have
do
them
it.
leave. I mean, that's better than having them
PowerPoint
stand up.
comes up. Teenagers leave.
Teenagers, leave the auditorium.
Hustle out.
And camera focuses in on that person. You need to go. Somebody else.
It's just too awkward.
So-
If you have a student service in the basement or in another room, if you can do your own music, do your own thing. The pastor wants it.
Okay,
you
so
see a need for
so
it. Go
what
for
about
it.
what about
Easy.
the idea of you
He
going to
doesn't
church
totally
with your
see
kids?
it.
That's the thing. That's what I like that.
Well,
so
it's-
as long as there's multiple service times, then I think.
Yeah,
do
but
it.
they're not going to go to multiple service times.
Well-
Just like I mean,
I
when
know,
we
we
talk
don't
about it at our
ours.
church.
But in a whole lot of church environments, you do have a Sunday school type of a meeting
Yes.
and then the church service.
But it
This
doesn't
could
sound
be
like
similar.
this is one of those environments.
But it could be. He could view it. This guy or lady could view it as a small group
Frank.
Sunday school. Frank.
Frank the
I don't
Wayne.
remember the name. Yeah.
Frank
They
Ketta.
could view it as more of a small group setting and a discipleship setting or fellowship
Frankie.
setting, and then do their entry level program at another time.
Yeah.
Good.
Frankenstein.
I just don't think
I'd do it
It's
once a
interesting
month.
to me if your students are going. I mean, that they are actually going to an adult service. That's cool.
How
And
is he the
I mean,
youth pastor? What else do they do?
Well, let me give you my. You're saying every week. I'm saying I do it once a month and see how it went, and just try it. Because then, if all of a sudden, I'm not saying I'm right.
Once a
Josh,
month for how
I'm
long?
saying you're underselling it. If you're going to launch it, do an experiment for 3 months where you do it every week.
Yeah.
And pitch it hard and go for it. If you do it once a month, it's always going to be mediocre.
Is this a topic you covered in your other podcast?
Were you sitting on that
How
line
is this
for a while?
possible?
Yeah, for like 2.1 milliseconds. That was a long time for me.
I was gonna say,
I
that
could
doesn't really
kind of tell
sit,
by your
like-
smirk. You just had a little bit of a
No,
smirk.
I'm just giving you a little bit of content.
I waited
here.
until Josh was actually done talking, which is so hard for
That's
me to do.
impressive.
really is.
Mr. Wisdom.
Well, but so what you're saying, though, Josh, by doing that every week, you're taking a stand and
Absolutely.
saying it doesn't really matter if teenagers experience the body of Christ in that particular church with their family.
Because the leadership is saying, let's have their body of Christ be a meeting time for them at a different place. At the same time, different place.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what the leadership's saying. Go for it. I mean, I would almost view it,
But
but I would be
you know
thankful
what?
for
It
that.
sounds
to say, I
like-
can rescue these students and give them a student-friendly environment, a student-friendly message, and take them away from an environment where they're not learning. They might be attending, but the youth pastor himself admitted that they're just, it's a painful service for a student to be in.
Yeah, but to rescue them,
I know it's not the right word, but
Okay.
it's still, I'll concede that, but it's still a good call.
Bored doesn't always mean not.
You
learning.
can have a sucky podcast and still be friends with Tony Stewart.
They are friends.
I mean,
I
you
think
could
it's a pretty good show.
You could admit that it's sucky and
All right,
still be
let's
friends.
let a couple of our listeners decide.
On what?
Because they're still available. You can download them on iTunes.
I just wanted to know what you thought. It's not
So
a priority
people listen to
because
two
Okay,
useless
stop. You
podcasts
guys,
in a
are we
week.
gonna anybody else got anything with Frank?
I think you should at least talk to people. Does anybody here disagree with that?
No,
You wouldn't ask
No, you
people?
can talk to me. Here's the deal,
I
Matt.
wouldn't do a survey.
You can
Oh,
you
I
talk to
would.
people and you find out, so they say, no, we don't want it all, but you've already made all the decision to go forward. I mean, you can talk to people.
Oh, if the
and,
decision's there, yeah, but he hasn't made a decision.
well,
Senior pastor did.
but the senior pastor, it says his heart has changed on it.
Yeah.
So at first he was against doing it. Okay, now his heart's changed on it, and now senior pastor's saying every week, which may be,
Yeah, if you got to do it either every week or every month, then I wouldn't ask people. That's true. You're right. I was thinking that it was still.
So Josh and I are divided. Josh says every week. I say once
I
a
like
month.
Josh standing strong on something.
I just think
It's
it's
awesome.
Call it an experiment
It
either
is.
way. But one, you
Now, who
invest
has more
time,
youth
money,
ministry
heart,
experience?
energy into, and really make it great. Because I don't know, once a month,
So
I'd
then-
cut corners.
so then-
I wouldn't prepare very well.
But see, then the kids say, I think just the opposite.
Yeah, I kind of
You're
agree.
going, man, once a month.
You wouldn't cut corners if it was once a month.
I think
I don't
you're
think you
more
would.
likely to cut corners
I don't think
once
Josh
a week.
would. Oh yeah, especially after
Have
the
you listened
sixth
to their
week.
podcast? They cut corners.
You guys have never even listened.
I've never listened to it.
It's just a good bit.
I
can
like
sense
Tony
that.
too. I think he's great, but I can like somebody and tell them that they do something that sucks because they know that
You
I
haven't
love
even
them.
listened to it.
I'm saying I can. I'm
Okay,
asking
and-
you.
Frank,
listen
I'm
to it?
sorry.
Frank,
How many episodes did you listen
I
to?
didn't listen to it. I'm not
No.
saying anything about it.
here's
I'm
my
just
here's my
assuming-
problem.
Nor do I ever want
Let's go
to.
back to
You
Frank.
keep doing things if they're
Yes.
good.
Here's my problem with
You
this.
stop doing things that are bad.
No, we would have stopped this a long time ago. my problem with every week, and the other question. I mean, let's at least admit there are bigger questions. The bigger
Of course.
questions is, what's your Wednesday night? What are you doing Wednesday night? Are you meeting at other times? And maybe this guy had so many meetings at other time he didn't need a
Have you
meeting on
subscribed
Sunday
to
morning.
Simply Access?
Big questions.
He
I
needs
don't know.
Invisalign.
I just think the whole idea of taking kids out of church, where it is part of that. I mean, you are making a huge philosophical change to say kids are in church every week, and now all of a sudden, bam, they're gone.
All right,
But-
you do it for students. You do it for children. You do it for infants. You do it for middle schoolers in some churches. Where do you draw the line? You would say at high school, or even maybe before.
Well, I would say I think it would be a great thing for churches to create environments where kids, because really what we do, it's kind of like this idea of family camp. We say, hey,
Right.
everybody, family camp.
Holy smokes.
Which means we bring them all together, and then once we get them all together, we go, okay, now the adults in here and kids go off there. We do the same thing at church. We say, come to church as a family, then we got childcare, we got Sunday school, we got all this. And
Right.
they never experience
Right.
that
Children's
corporate
ministry.
worship. And I guess, and the passion for me, maybe that in 15 years of being at Saddleback with a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, we very rarely experience corporate
Yeah.
worship. I mean, one, being a pastor, I'm usually speaking somewhere, but, as a family, we very rarely experience corporate worship. So this
I
may
know,
have
but-
my
Well,
own
and I'll
little-
give you
my own
a little
little-
nod on that because at Christmas Eve I sat with my boys on each side, and in our culture we just do not get to do that, and
Yeah.
it was special. I
Yeah.
mean, they had the candlelight service. It was awesome.
Did either throw up?
Nobody did, but they didn't light anybody
I
on
was gonna
fire.
say, they
It
didn't
was
light anybody
cool.
on
It
fire?
was really cool. So I value
And they
that.
focused for Christmas?
Yeah, it was hard to believe they made it, but they did fine. 5 and 4-year-old did okay in
Yeah,
big
my
church.
kids, they don't have that mental ability
Now,
yet.
So I
this is,
love that,
but this
but
is
on
an
a
example
regular
like when we
basis?
said on
But-
the last question, there isn't another side. I mean, this one, you can make strong
Oh,
arguments on both
yeah,
sides.
there's multiple sides. Maybe
Well, and
even
could
two.
students go to a student-friendly service the first hour, and is there another service where they could worship with their family?
That
Well,
would-
that's the
ideally
thing,
would
though,
be
is
cool.
most people aren't planning corporate worship services with multi-generations in mind. And
That's
so
a
that
great
is a
point.
big breakdown.
If you have students
Well,
in
and
your
if you're
service,
bringing people out halfway through, aren't you still having some of the experience altogether?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a piece of that.
but can a communicator really get from 12 to 62 years old in their talk?
But I don't even think it has to be just just the message part of it.
Right.
Although I do think that even timing that, I mean, a 40-minute message is not as friendly as a 25-minute
Right.
message. So, I mean, even timing can be more friendly to.
True.
I think there's and maybe this is what I would love to see in our church environment. So this is where my bias is coming out.
Sure.
Pastor
I don't
Rick,
necessarily think it needs to be an
Pastor Rick,
every
please
week
take notes.
deal.
Yeah.
But I would love for the church to say, we're going to do some things every once in a while where there is this corporate worship time of multi-generational, where a 5-year-old is standing next to a 50-year-old.
Yeah.
And, a 50-year-old is standing next to a 90-year-old.
And we did do that actually a year ago for
Yeah.
New Year's Eve. And it was cool.
And
I
it
mean, we
worked
got
really
good
well.
feedback.
But
We did.
But we had
For
to work
what?
really hard at keeping the attention span, checking what we were
What
doing
was the
and
New
how
Year's
long
Eve
it
thing?
was.
We did a family service for New Year's Eve. Not this year, but the year before.
Oh, the year I wasn't. It's the dark year.
the year Matt wasn't with us.
The
may he
year
rest in
after
peace.
Matt got fired.
But we were super intentional, and I don't think most churches are. They program for a
Yeah, I mean, I would
44-year-old
like to see.
person.
I would like to see it happen before I wanted it so bad. But I'm not a visionary like you are.
Well, Matt, everybody's a visionary, just in their own way. Their
That's
eyesight's
right.
just a little different.
That's right.
This is from Joseph Robinson, Flashpoint Ministries podcast gang. I'm very behind on my SYM podcast. I
Then
just
don't
listened
email us.
to the beginning of episode 58 and heard Brazel say I'm getting a good prize. So what is it? Thanks again for using my song.
We have no idea what
Have
it
we
is.
not followed up on the
maybe
song,
we can give
guys,
them
yet?
Simply Access.
Andy?
.com.
Okay, will you take that? And that was just like a few days ago.
Maybe Simply
This
Access.
is from
Andy.
John Shell from Bluefield, West Virginia. I am finishing up my second year of biblical studies youth ministry degrees. I'm 29 and feel well behind the rest of the youth ministry gang. I want to serve somewhere once I get done, but I'm afraid that my age will affect what kind of internships.
Ding, 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 ding.
Speaking of internships,
Jana Sardi.
Saddleback Church now offered. All right, keep going.
What kind of
Intern in the
internships
regionals.
and even what kind of
What's so
internships
funny
and
about
even
that?
position I will be able to get. What things do you think would be helpful for me to learn in order to stay up with those who are 22 and fresh out of college?
Can we just say all of us are over the
gracious.
29
Yeah.
mark?
Yes.
So
Well,
Too late.
I'm the only one.
Andy's 28, but other than that,
But his baldness makes him 38.
and he's about to leave youth ministry anyhow. So
Well, John, here's what I would say.
This is a great question.
Well, you know what? Why it's the only reason it's a great question is because there is a cultural expectation that in youth ministry, younger is better.
younger, more
Yeah.
fun,
Well,
more
crazier,
energetic.
Yeah.
tired.
and as we get older, we want to change that cultural expectation.
No,
No,
it's,
you've been.
It's just a misnomer.
Remember when you were before 30, you had a mustache, so you looked older?
Yes, I do remember those
That
days.
was awesome.
That's why I grew a goatee,
But I would say, John,
So
because they
had
couldn't tell the
facial hair.
difference.
John,
Yeah.
I would rather hire you as a 29-year-old out of college than a 22-year-old out of college.
Yeah, we've had a lot of interns that have been struggling. None
Well,
of our
and-
current
But
ones,
it-
of course.
No, they're all flawless, but previous
Yeah,
ones.
and thank you
yes.
guys for listening
Yeah.
to this podcast. Jana, do you make the interns listen to the podcast?
No.
What? This is gold.
She doesn't even believe in the podcast. How could she? She would consider it an affliction
She
upon
would
their
listen
life.
to it if she wasn't
A
here with her
blight
own
upon
ears
their
right
schedule.
now.
If Jana got one intern out of the podcast, she would consider it a success.
Okay, so if you're out there,
Okay, Josh Peace. But I think Josh Peace kind of
Josh
came
Peace,
from
a
the,
current
yeah.
intern, is an enormous. Well,
He's great.
he's an enormous
a
fan,
superstar.
huge asset to
Pass it
HSM.
on.
Yeah, when
Can you
he
pass
You
it
just have
on?
to say that because he works for you.
No, it's legitimate. He's
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 legit.
great.
a superstar.
I'll be the judge.
But he's
Listen
also
to the Pet podcast.
but also he's a little bit older too. He's not your typical 22-year-old, right? He
Yeah,
was
has
a youth
some-
pastor for
has some
3
youth ministry
years and had some
experience.
experience.
He's
How
only
about
about
this, though? Did you
130
know
pounds,
He actually
though.
doesn't listen to the show. If I don't tell him about this moment, he won't even know about it. Because he
But
doesn't
I
have time
think
for it now.
previously, yes.
Previously, nonstop
Previously.
big fan.
Yeah, but now that he's been Soundbite goes,
Yeah,
you
he's
guys
like
are idiots.
4 doofuses. They don't even prep the show.
I thought that was a bit.
Yeah, no, we really
It's
don't.
real life. But John, here's the deal. At
We
29
prepped
years
the
old,
show.
you are in a prime age to do great youth ministry out of college. Learn to have good people skills so you can recruit other people. Get a bigger perspective of youth ministry, that it's not just about you, that it's about the church body caring for other people. You don't need to keep up with people who are 22. Now, the difference is, if you can't, right out of college with no experience, you're still going to probably pay somebody 29 a little bit more than you would 22, but
Yeah.
that's going to be the
Which
tough
is
thing.
a drag.
Absolutely. But with no experience, you're now a 29-year-old with 29-year-old bills that you need to pay.
But maybe he's got other
You
experience.
just need to write your resume in a way that capitalizes on your other experience.
And they
Jana
might have had
could
an
do that.
internship, or they might have
That's
done.
how she got the job at Saddleback.
Wow.
No, I
Jana
was
says,
that
Jana says
all.
she got a master's in event management.
Yeah.
Really?
Have you ever seen any diploma in her office?
No.
Have you ever seen the events that she runs?
Hey, yeah, have you? Have you?
That's your
Oh,
diploma right there,
gosh.
suckers.
You don't even want to open up that can, Josh, 'cause you were originally hired to run the events that she puts
I was
on.
originally hired as a pretty face. We all know it. We all know it. Don't fight it.
God.
All right. Todd
Oh.
Lucas.
Hey, we'll be needing
Todd
a couple
Lucas
more youth
Eckstein.
workers in the regionals.
The regional.
Ooh.
Hey, you know what? We could use.
Yeah.
If people are interested in an internship, Jana, let's just make a.
Saddleback.com/internships.
All right. And Jana is the queen. Ask your questions. We put you up in a house. We pay you nothing. You raise your support for
We
2 years.
Send you to seminary if you'd like. We'd do.
You pay us $1,000 a year? A little bit
no,
more than that?
$500 a year.
Oh,
And the
gosh.
$500 a year covers
$500 a year?
conferences.
Conferences and tons
should be
of books and
$1,500 a year.
resources and
Free breakfast on Wednesdays.
yeah.
Interns in
It's a great
ministry.
program. It is. I love our interns. And I honestly, looking at our season of interns right now, I would love it. And obviously my role in HSM.
Or if you want to
demands
get
this.
paid, send your resume to me, and maybe you could get paid.
If there's,
At one of
if
our
there's
new
someone in
regional
your
campuses.
youth ministry or a graduate, someone in college, we would love to talk to them. It'd be
Yeah.
fun to have some sharp.
But we don't have just youth ministry. We don't have interns. Jana oversees the entire church.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't have just
program.
student ministry.
But I-
and
I'm
Music,
speaking
we have
only
small
HSM.
group, we have missions, as you
Bring
should.
'em on. Bring 'em
as
on.
you should.
As you should. You quit everything else to do that.
Including
Including
the other
the other
fantastic podcast.
No, it wasn't that good.
You've never said whether it's good or bad, by the way.
Here's the deal. It was different because it gave you a topic every week or every
Different than what? This one?
different than this one's emails and random and whatever, and the other one was very topical, so you could find what you're looking for.
So was it good or bad?
I liked it.
All
it's
right,
good.
Todd Eckstein. You often
It's too bad you have to sacrifice
You often
what you
suggest
like.
caution when considering involving a parent of a student in the youth ministry. The more I consider the gifts of folks in our congregation, the more convinced I am that many of my church's best fits for youth ministry happen to be parents of current students. I met with one student yesterday to discuss asking his mom to be involved, but really felt clueless as to how to go about doing so. Would you offer your suggestions on what such a discussion would include, and how to help a student understand what I'm asking and why? Thanks so
What?
much.
I'm confused by that
Yeah,
question.
Well,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think
I'm
he's
focusing.
saying rather than parents coming to him and wanting to volunteer, he's saying he's going to go after some parents.
Well, here's what we
talking to
say.
the
When
student.
somebody says, do you let a parent of a teenager be a volunteer? We would say, absolutely. Here's our suggestion. Number one, talk to that kid and say, hey,
Kid has to sign off.
your mom or dad is interested in being involved.
That's different, though, than them going after the parent.
Yes.
Right, but he's saying he had a conversation with the student and he wanted to know how you would do that.
Right, but it kind of sounded like he was pursuing the parent, even if maybe.
Is he asking the question, how do I say, hey dudes and dudettes, if you have cool parents, you should have them come be volunteers?
No, let me take this one so we can get on. He wants to know a question with a teenager.
Our,
I would
our
say
podcast
this.
was good. I decided that in this moment. Compared to that moment right there, it was actually A minus.
Yeah.
A minus. Absolutely. Continue.
Oh, gosh.
What do you say to the kid? And I would say to the kid, talk to your parents. Would love to have them involved. I know that might be, how do you feel about that first? If he feels a little awkward about it, we're going to make sure that you still have the freedom in the room to be who you want to be and who you are.
Right.
Your dad's not going to be your small group leader. Your mom's not going to lurk over you. I will help with that, whole situation. How do you feel about that?
Okay, but how do you balance that with your family-friendly wishes?
Wait, but don't you think there's a difference
If you
in
want to bring everybody together for
Sorry.
corporate, because it's great to have the whole family together,
Well,
why
you
would
just,
you
why
separate?
are you assuming that you would only meet during the worship service? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm saying is that what if a parent wants to be a kid's small group leader, but the kid doesn't want it?
Yeah.
What would you do?
I would tell the parent you're around them a ton of time. For a teenager to grow healthy, it's nice to have some
Because
other
there's a difference between a
significant
small
adults in
group
their life.
environment versus the
Yeah,
corporate.
well,
worship
I mean,
time.
it
Okay,
would
I got
be,
it.
it was like Tori says, my 19-year-old says on Saturday, who do you think's going to that birthday party? Because I didn't go to this birthday party, and she said, will Matt
right.
be there? And I said, yeah, I think so. She goes, I love Matt. Well,
That's good.
here's an example. You were never her small group leader, but you've had a significant role
Right.
in her life. And
We
you
had
know,
fun hanging out too, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
Just have I ever told you the story that when she came into high school, when Matt was the high school pastor,
Yeah.
like in 9th grade, she'd see Matt and she'd just run and she'd sit on his lap and she'd like, because Matt's been with her since she was born,
Yeah.
so she'd like sit, facing him. And finally, Kathy had to say, sweetheart, you're in high school now and Matt is your high school pastor. It's probably not appropriate.
Not awkward at all.
But I would, I would say to that parent,
Right. No, I got it. I got it.
for your kid to be healthy, they've got to have other adults in their life who are helping them and shaping them. And
I didn't think that question through.
Okay, but what
But that's
about
a good.
this?
That's a good. I see what you're saying.
Isn't there a difference of me going to Johnny and saying, Johnny, I'm going to go ask your dad to get involved, rather than Johnny's dad coming to me and me going, great, I'm excited that you're involved. Let me go talk to Johnny and see how he feels about it too. And
Yeah, I think you do both though.
right, but I think there's a difference between that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
no, I'm lost a little bit.
Are you?
yeah,
I'm
totally.
trying to-
I'm not. I
honestly.
focus.
Yeah, I was thinking about Josh's old podcast, how
Yeah.
much I enjoyed that.
So good. Four. Sorry. I got no more Pepsi.
But you lost
I know
me a
what
little
you're
bit.
saying.
There's a difference between an interested parent coming to us
Okay.
and saying, hey, I'm interested in
Right.
volunteering, and
Right.
us going to a student and going, would your parent be interested in volunteering?
Yeah, but I would say, how would
Yeah.
you feel about me talking to your mom about being involved?
Sure.
As opposed to, would your mom be? I don't need the kid to broker the relationship.
Right.
Yeah, I
Sure,
agree.
sure. I understand that.
Although I
just
would,
think
because I
that
don't like talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk to your parents about it?
Both of them.
All right.
Not both.
Nathaniel Price, Sugar Creek United Methodist in Chatham, Illinois.
All right.
My question is
Chattanooga?
about discipline, specifically in regards to
Mental
trips.
or physical?
trips. We got
What
some
do you
good
send
stories.
a kid home from a trip? When do you send a kid home from a trip?
When?
What do you consider a send you home offense? Are there parameters that determine if you will send a kid home? I.e., if you are on the other side of the country, do you send a kid home? Do you send a kid home? How do you do it keep it from derailing the trip? Do you plan ahead of time for the possibility of this? When you've sent the kid home, what process do you use?
Oh.
It's such a
boy.
well thought through. I mean,
It's a typical
these-
situation.
These
It's
are
difficult.
so tough.
Well, if you're doing a trip across the country and you're taking a couple morons that you maybe have to send home, you're not doing a good screening
That
process.
might be a mistake in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking a trip that far,
Or you did a good screening process and somebody slipped through the crack. Or you believed, for example, I was in Africa 6 months ago with a whole bunch of teenagers, and Tori, my daughter's friend, said, oh, so-and-so wants to go. They've got the money. Oh, they're great. And I said not to Tori. Tori didn't know her. I said to her friend, I said, what do you know about her? Is she a follower of Christ? She went to this church and she's great. Well, you know what? I said yes to it, and she was okay. She was a B. There was nowhere close to me sending her home, but it was one of those. I've done a million trips, and she slipped through the cracks. Where if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have taken her. She was kind of on her own agenda, the whole bit. I'm not going to say.
But number one is before we even go on a trip, we say, here's the guidelines.
yeah, we could send the Mexicali Covenant.
Well,
Remember that? What's that called? Basic Human Living Skills Covenant. That's right.
let me give a couple resources. In Purpose-Driven Youth Ministry, we have a whole chapter on discipline.
Yes.
Okay, and then we talk about things like what to make majors, what to make minors. We also, and I'm sure it's on the freebies, Andy.
We don't
if
have
it's
any
not,
rules. We just have some guidelines. We don't anticipate any problems. We're just saying this to get everybody on the same page.
is that we ask people to sign a covenant before they go on a trip. And so that way we say to them in this covenant, if I understand that if I buy fireworks in Mexico or drink or do one of these things,
Remember Chris Cox?
that I have signed my bus ticket. Why are you saying names? You shouldn't be saying names right now.
Chris Cox is a wonderful student leader.
Yes, we got sent home from a trip.
But,
He wasn't a student.
and we usually do that either the night before or the morning of. And we walk through it step by step, point by point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just like we pass it out and say, sign this and turn it back in.
No,
I
and
mean,
parents know ahead of time the whole deal. The hardest deal is dealing with the parents.
Yeah.
Because then the parent has to,
Yeah.
which those have been some of the tougher conversations I've ever had. When I had to call the parent and say, I know this is going to be inconvenient to you, but before your, daughter went on this trip, we signed this thing. You also signed it. Well, we just found her smoking cigarettes. and or whatever. And
Could
now
have been a
we,
he,
what's that?
Could have been a son. There
Could
you
have been
go.
a he. Could've
but
been a
that
he.
chance that time it was a girl.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that one? We could actually talk about her, Tally, when we sent her home
Yeah.
from a trip. She said, and her family said, that was so tough. Because remember how ticked her parents were at us
Oh,
on
that's
this
a kind word.
But she
Rutenbar
said
stepped in and helped with that.
that was a turning point in their relationship in terms of getting her headed on the right path.
I never heard that.
Yeah, you could ask
I
Tim
mean, I
that
trust you.
anytime.
Yeah, of course.
the
I've never
dad.
heard that part of it. That's crazy.
But we've pretty much sent somebody home from every trip we've done. I mean,
no, not even
every.
close.
Sorry, not every trip, but every kind of trip.
Oh,
Mexico,
okay,
houseboats,
I'm
camp.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
you're
we've-
right.
I mean, we've had to do everything from
Kids home
parents
from
come all the
Mexico.
way and pick them up to putting them on a bus to take. Andy and I have driven students home at 3 in the morning. Yeah, so
And how'd you guys drive back together?
we weren't married, neither one of us.
Oh.
And
Was that before or
Jana.
after you saw Andy naked?
Same weekend.
But
shared a lot.
here's the deal that I would say to Nathaniel and everybody else. The more you do ahead of time to minimize it, and
Yeah.
Matt kind of went into his voice of, you know, we don't expect any problem. You know, what I say is, hey, you guys, we don't expect, you know, from 99% of you, we don't expect any problems at all. But just in
It
case.
is mathematically impossible to not have some morons in this room right now. So for the few of you that are here,
And when Matt and
you
I
can
was
have fun. You
when
can have
Matt
a
and
lot
I
of fun
were
with
doing
that.
it together, that was fun because we would play the good cop, bad cop with that. But we let people know ahead of time.
I think I pretty much was just bad cop. I didn't see you on stage. Just kidding.
He was actually playing bad cop right there too.
I was backstage critiquing Josh's podcast.
You're backstage writing a
All right,
chapter
anything else
all my
on-
material?
Anything else on discipline here? Yeah, Andy.
Did you catch that?
What's that?
Kids love discipline. When Matt was disciplined in Mexico, kids loved it. They ate it up. They respected it.
Yeah, you got to do it the right way though.
Absolutely.
You know what? Here's
A la
the deal
Doug Elliott and
on
Jared
PDYM.
Moyne.
PDYM, the discipline chapter is one that really doesn't fit like with the first 10 chapters of the book. It's kind of one of those where when I was writing it, I went, every youth worker asks about this. There was a couple things
Yeah.
in there like time management and discipline, a few things that wouldn't flow into like
Youth
long-term
industry
strategy.
yeah.
But discipline is part of your strategy. You can't have discipleship without discipline. And I would say that's worthy. If you didn't get that far in the book, you know, go back and read that chapter. I think it'd be helpful there.
But one thing we didn't say that is definitely true in all this is that you can't go back on what you say. If you say smoking sends you home and a kid smokes
That's
and you don't
great
send them
call.
home, then you might as well just
Yeah.
quit youth ministry and never do anything
Yeah.
with your life again.
Make sure the biggies are really, really.
But also,
You gotta
let's say
follow
that
through.
every single one of those breaks your heart, that
Yeah.
you grieve it, that you hate to do it, you want to turn your back. It's so much easier. But one of the things that we found when we sent somebody home from the houseboats 1 year, we didn't have problems for like the next 4 years.
That's true.
Because
Yeah,
they
that is-
knew, everybody
yeah.
knew. Remember when they sent so-and-so home? They
Yeah.
knew, you know, and that whole, like, whatever year that was, we had 4 years in a row where we had no problems because people understood that we kept our word on that.
Do you remember smashing Pat Ritz's Walkman?
I totally do. He tried to tackle me and I just
That was the funniest
destroyed
thing
him.
Well, we also used to say, you know, that was the thing. We would say, look, before a trip, we'll end with this. Say before a trip, you know, we chose at Saddleback that you didn't take your headphones.
Just
PM,
Smith.
PMP, personal music device.
Your cassette
PMP.
recorders,
What is it?
iPod in the old days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, even you know,
Record players.
we say leave it all home because we don't want you isolating yourself. We explain the theory behind it. We say, you know what? If for some reason you thought you were above the rules when you packed it, then here's what the best thing to do: just come clean, and we'll put tape on it, and we'll put your name on it. We'll leave it here at the church, and just leave it here.
We'll
And then,
lose
but
them after
but we would say, if we find it on the camp,
We're breaking it.
Matt will destroy it, and you know, and
We
we
did that a
had fun
couple
with that.
times.
We found a couple, and we
It
would
makes
turn-
for a great program.
I was going to say it turned into fun programming.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine breaking an iPod now.
Oh.
Let's do it. Let's do it this summer.
Oh, you're the high school
Josh, we'll
pastor.
see how tough you are.
Yeah.
No,
Good
old
thing Matt's
softy
coming.
over
Hey,
there.
you guys want to go with?
All right, Andy, anything? 30
Seriously.
seconds
That was only
left.
3
3 weeks before our conference.
What is PMP? Does that stand for something?
No, Sounds like something in World of Warcraft.
It does.
Yeah. Oh, do I have a World of
Gerald
Warcraft story
Slaver.
for you?
Gerbil
When we
Slayer.
just line off. When we
Tape,
line off.
Indian,
Gotta go.
Interns, more than dodgeball.
regionals.
See me and Matt at Cincinnati.
Don't see anybody else.
Simply access for Andy.